Welcome to the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM. Live from Blue Rays in New Orleans and Hudson Oaks, the Aledo Bearcats Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. And now, here's the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist.
Hello, and we welcome you to Blue Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks, bringing you the best in authentic Cajun food for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. They have other Westoplex locations in Lake Worth and in Crowley. And, of course, we always want to recognize our two presenting sponsors in H5 Sports Barn and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. It is hardball playoff time, doubling up with softball and baseball for the rest of the season, hoping that these two can make deep runs into the postseason. Both are in the Class 5A Division I, Region I bracket. Softball is through to the area round. Baseball starts its journey this week. In case you didn't know, softball swept Colleyville Heritage last week in the opening round by scores of 3-0 and 12-1. And they probably need to disband this team because they finally gave up a run for the first time since the middle of April. So I guess we're going to have to talk to them about that. Anyway, we're just kidding about that. But Lady Cats are now 26-3. They're going to play Burleson in the area round on Thursday. Burleson is 22-6. This is going to be a single-game playoff at 6:30. And the Lady Cats are back at a familiar setting at Saginaw Chisholm Trail, which is where they played Colleyville Heritage. Baseball is 23-6 and finished off the regular season with a sweep of Azle last week by scores of 5-2 and 10-0. They are in a best-of-3 playoff against Birdville in the opening round. Game 1 is 7:30 at Aledo. Game 2 is 7:30 Friday at Birdville. And if they have a Game 3, it will be noon on Saturday at Birdville. These teams actually do know each other. They saw each other in a non-district game on April 5th. That was a Saturday. Aledo won that game by a score of 15-5, and the Hawks are 10-18. Two-segment podcast for you. We'll open up with baseball, of course, and head coach Chad Berry, along with senior left-hander Rhett Spiers. And then we'll be finishing up with the second segment with softball and head coach Heather Myers and freshman pitcher infielder Tempe Perry. All right, Coach Berry joins us here along with Rhett Spiers, and fifth consecutive district title. Of course, you already had it wrapped up last week because of the sweep of Granbury the week before, but your team did meet the challenge of going undefeated, something that the previous 4 district championship teams did not do. No slight to them, of course, because you work hard to do that. But it was something that you kind of gave them a challenge to kind of work toward, even though there really wasn't anything on the line. What was your takeaway from that?
You know, we just kind of talked about this week we were going to prepare for the playoffs, and so we wanted to sharpen up on some things. We wanted to work some things in the small game, really shape up the defense, be locked in mentally, and just kind of focus on the mental side of things and sharpen our approach at the plate. And so we had definite goals that we wanted to work on to get better at this week, even though standing-wise nothing was going to change, win or lose those games. But, you never like to lose anyway.
Right. Competitors, if you're out on the field, you might as well go try and win the ball game. And so how did you like the week of how they handled the focus? I mean, just playing that game with really nothing on the line, as you mentioned for. But what did you like about just the way they went about handling their business?
They kind of went business as usual. Tuesday, there was maybe a slight lack in focus and intensity over at Azle, but I never really felt like that game ever was really that close after the first inning. I just felt like we seemed to have it in control. We were just kind of in cruise control mode, and so that was the message Wednesday when we got back was, we can't do that. We were better than that. We kind of almost played down to their level and just kind of sat on a lead instead of pressing the issue. And I think they responded really well Friday. They came out of the gates hot and finished off the district season right away.
The Tuesday game, because you actually had to switch those games last week because of the weather. So Tuesday was at your place, Tuesday was at their place. No, Tuesday was at your place.
It was at Azle.
At Azle, excuse me. Okay, and that was 2-2 after the first inning, and then you guys got a run in the next inning, I believe, to go up 3-2, and then you were able to build on it. And so maybe it wasn't a bad thing that they got hit with a little adversity too.
I think so. I thought I wanted to see how we responded. I wanted to see how our pitchers responded because we haven't really had a whole lot of adversity to really deal with a whole lot here lately. And so I thought that was a good moment to see how we responded to that. I wanted to see if we would come back and respond when we got back into the dugout to hit in the top of the second and to see if we could answer what they had just done. they'd kind of taken the momentum back from us, and we came right back and got another run. And so I was like, thought that was a really good sign.
When your team came back to work this week, what was the point you wanted to stress now that each week becomes kind of like a one-round season?
I told them you can take the rankings, you can take the records, you can take, who it is, what the record was. All that doesn't mean anything anymore. Everybody's 0-0 now. It's a brand new season. It's no longer regular season. This is championship season, and everybody starts off 0-0.
And every coach knows his team. I would imagine you know how to play up certain talking points like you just mentioned about what the playoffs are, when to go hard or when not to. So with this team and with having so many seniors, was it like a driving home point incessantly, or was it kind of like I can say something and I don't have to like beat it into their heads because they know what's at stake here?
I think most of them know what's at stake. Most of those kids were on the varsity last year as juniors, and so they went through 3 rounds of the playoffs. They saw us, win a really tough series in the second round, and then get beat in the third round. And so they've seen both sides of it, and they understand what you have to do week after week, game after game, to play at that level, maintain that. And so I think that experience from their junior year is going to help them. It's matured them. I think they're taking what we're asking them to do this week. They kind of seem like they are taking it in stride. It's more of a, yes, we understand what's expected. We know what we got to do. And so I think they're a little more comfortable with it. And so, I think you can tell them things and they understand it.
Yep.
It's not something they have to go try to experience and then learn from it real quick with a quick turnaround. I think they understand what's at stake.
Okay. Speaking of senior leadership, off to our left here is Rhett Spiers, the senior left-hander here, and he's obviously not being able to pitch this year because of some arm issues. We'll get to that here in a few moments. But you wanted to bring him up here to visit with us because of the fact that so many things that he's contributed to the course of the season being successful. Talk about that.
We talk about whether you're in the lineup or not, trying to add value all the time. Can you do something to help this team? Can you, even if you're not on the field or not pitching or getting to bat, can you do things to add value? Can you do things to help this team win and be successful and maintain the standard? And he does that well. I mean, it's got to be crushing to him to not be able to get on the field as a senior anymore this year because of his arm issues. But he's found a way to still lead. And I think that's just a unique character issue or character quality that he has. I think it's just phenomenal to watch him. Just he's excited in the dugout. He's making noise. He's encouraging his teammates and things like that. And he'll run and grab a foul ball if he needs to. He'll do whatever. He'll run a glove and a hat out to somebody that made the third out after an inning. So they don't have to come all the way back to the dugout. Whatever he can do, he does. And to me that's a leader. He's just a true leader. And regardless that he's wants to be on the field, he's not. He's still finding ways to lead and be a part and be a big part of this program.
Rhett, obviously this wasn't the year that you wanted. I got the chance to watch you pitch last year a couple times. I just want to ask you what this season has been like for you, because you had to be in this role where you can't contribute on the field, but you got to find other ways to do it. What's it been like for you just kind of going through that role?
I mean, obviously I was a little emotional at first about my arm injury, but just coming in every day and just supporting my guys on the field and off the field, I mean, it's just been that way ever since I got injured. So it just means the world to me to come every single day and just support my teammates.
This arm injury situation that you've gone through, you had a little bit of a tweak. We were talking before we started recording this. You had a little bit of a tweak toward the end of the season last year. Were able to rehab and still pitch, and then obviously you had the more severe injury or in the winter rather. And so you had what was not a full-scale Tommy John. So for people who don't know, because you automatically think that if it's the ulnar collateral ligament, it's going to be a Tommy John. So describe your situation, because it's a little bit different.
So it's more of like a hybrid of Tommy John. It's just a lesser surgery. It's less intense, but it's also lesser recovery time as well. So they just went in and pretty much just tied that or reconstructed that ligament back together, and then it's just smooth sailing from there. I just got to go through rehab and physical therapy to get back on the field for college.
And you were talking about, too, how because of the surgeries or just the schedules being so late that you couldn't even get your surgery until, January or something like that, or March or whatever.
It was in March.
Yeah.
Actually.
And so just that had to be frustrating too, because you have the injury in December, I think it was, and then you're waiting through, and then you have the MRI not until I think it was January. Now I got the time frame, and then you don't have the surgery until March. How frustrating was that to deal with that?
Just not being able to get in, and that makes my recovery time even longer. I can't even get on the field back until probably December or early January of next year. So just that being that time frame, it just pushes everything back a little further. And it's just more time for me to stay off the field. I mean, it just killed me pretty much.
Yeah, I can feel for you on that. I mean, Chad, as a coach, I mean, you just talked about a few moments ago about his leadership in other ways, but what has his presence meant to this locker room?
I think they see how, he could have checked out. He could have just said, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and go enjoy the rest of my senior year, and I'm just going to leave baseball behind for a while until I go to college. And, he shows up every day. He's accountable every day. He's dependable every day. And I think that sets an example, not just for the other seniors that are there that may not be playing or they are playing every day, but the younger kids that see that too, that maybe are trying to get to the varsity, and they see that this kid, he doesn't get to play the rest of the season as a senior. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things he could be out there doing, and yet he chooses to come every day and be a part of something with his friends, and he's committed to it, and I think that's rare. That's just rare in today's world. That's very rare.
Humility is the word that comes to mind for something like that.
For sure.
Is that something that you just felt like I didn't want to miss out, even though you couldn't play? Rhett, that you're like, I want to be a part of this for however long, because this is my last shot at high school athletics.
Yeah, showing up, like I said, just being there for everybody, I didn't want to just go ahead and just say, oh, baseball's over with. No, I wanted to be there and be a part of this team and this program for my last senior year.
All right. Let's switch back to the team at hand here. Talk about the things that you like about what this team is doing.
Pitching, when we start everything with pitching and defense, we say every year we're going to hang our hat on pitching and defense. We are going to live and die with our pitching and our defense, and I think it's been really, really solid. Pitching has been great all year. Defense has been really good for the most part. We've had a couple hiccups here and there, but for the most part, we've been really solid on defense, and the hitting has been much more consistent than it was a year ago, and so I think we're in a good spot. Now, a week from now, I don't know that I'll still say that, but where we went through district and went 12-0, we're hitting the ball well, hitting it consistently up and down the lineup, and we're getting different contributors every night. So I think when we're getting production like that up and throughout the lineup, I think it just puts a lot of pressure on the opponents because there's no easy outs in the lineup. There's no holes.
Concerns, what there might be?
I've said it from day one. Our biggest concern, our biggest opponent is ourselves, staying out of our own way. Mm-hmm. I harp on them all the time about don't worry about what the rankings say. People that rank you don't play baseball. They're not playing baseball. And so it's nice that they noticed how successful you are, and they're giving you a nod for that, but don't let that dictate how well you prepare each and every week just because you're playing somebody who may not have as good a record as you, may not have as much talent as you, may not have the ranking you have. It doesn't matter. You're still playing the game of baseball, and anything can happen on any given day.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Birdville. Again, this is a best-of-3 series that starts Thursday at Aledo, and that actually played out as we all expected when we were talking about them last week, that you thought that you were going to wind up playing them. And then they wound up actually splitting their last series of the season last week against Argyle. So what do you think has changed about the Hawks since the last time you saw them? And again, granted, that was a Saturday game where no starters were playing for either side, much less pitching side. But what do you think has changed from what you've watched of them and scouted of them over the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think the big thing is they've got two really, really good pitchers, the Tuesday left-hander and the Friday right-handed kid. And, they had their backs against the wall last Friday. They had to win. They had to win at least one from Argyle in order to stay out of a fourth-place play-in game with Denton Ryan. Mm-hmm. And, they had Argyle at home on Friday night, and they beat them 7-2. And so, they had to win to make sure they clinched and stay out of a district seeding or play-in game.
Yeah, and you never want to get in that because those are kind of like a total roll of the dice on something like that. Sure. And so when you face a team like that, tough record like they do, they're 10-18. it's normal for them for possibly to have that attitude, let's play with nothing to lose. They're loose. They're not expected to go very far. Is that something you address with this team, or how do you even try to balance that?
I told our guys, I said, districts are different. You look at the 4 teams coming out of their district, you look at the 4 teams coming out of our district. And I said, we'll see where our districts match up after this weekend, see which teams advance, which teams don't. And I said, a lot of times records can be deceiving just for the simple fact of, they may have 4, 5, 6 really, really good teams in their district, which I really believe they do. I think, I think Grapevine, Argyle, Colleyville are all really top-notch teams. And, so when they get to the playoffs, regardless of what their record is, what placing or seeding they got in their district, they're very well battle-tested. There's not much they haven't seen. They've seen a lot of the top teams in the area in their own district. And so, I don't think they're going to feel like they're overmatched or anything like that. They've played teams like us throughout district.
Yeah, especially when you face the defending state champion twice. You get Colleyville Heritage, which has always been a great power, and of course Argyle. Their history speaks for itself. Let me switch it back over to you for a second, Rhett. I mean, at this point in your rehab, what can you physically do right now?
Well, I haven't been able to throw yet. I'm just going through PT and just getting those arm motions back to normal and just pretty much getting the feel of things back to normal. So I'll start throwing plyo balls, like all the weighted ball stuff, at about 12 weeks. So I'm about 4 weeks away from that.
About 4 weeks, okay. A lot of range of motion kind of things there. Well, how far can you extend and how much? Okay,
I'm at full extension now.
Okay, and where was that? Maybe right after the surgery. How far could you pull it? Could you extend that arm out?
Right after surgery is only to about 90 degrees. So I was about 90 degrees right after surgery, and then I went to about 10 degrees every week from there. So just 10 extra degrees every single week.
Okay, and then could you feel though, like, and when you cross those barriers, those thresholds of getting from 90 to 100 to 110, what kind of mental lift is that for you?
I mean, it's just almost like hitting a milestone or hitting a goal. It's just like it makes you feel positive about things, like things are getting back to normal, you're getting better, and you're just working that hard to get back to normal.
We all go through adversity in life, whether it's on the field, professionally, in school, that sort of thing. And I want to ask you, because you actually had the double whammy, unfortunately, with that elbow, but what do you think you've learned about yourself during this road back?
Honestly, that I'm a fighter. I mean, I've just gone through it, obviously, last year and this year. I've learned more than ever than to take care of your body and just to take care of yourself, and just to stay healthy is the biggest part of that. You just got to stay healthy, and it's just very challenging to do that.
And we talked about college. You're going to be pitching up in Oklahoma. Tell the folks about that.
Well, yeah, I committed to Northern Oklahoma College in Tonkawa back in November, and I'll be hopefully pitching there this coming fall.
And that's a JUCO that's just north of Oklahoma City.
Yes.
All right. And so the coaches obviously know about your situation there. Talk about the support that you've been getting from that staff up there.
Well, I mean, obviously they were pretty mad. They wanted to see me play my senior year. So
right.
That standpoint from them, they're probably pretty upset with that. But I feel like they're going to keep their trust, and they're confident with me coming back and just getting through my rehab once I get there. All
right. We wish you nothing but the best. And Coach, as we wrap this up, of course, we just talked about these opening round matchups here. District 5-5A, of course, the Bearcats taking on Birdville this week. The other Division I matchup is going to feature Granbury against Colleyville Heritage. And then the Division II matchups are going to be Grapevine taking on Brewer. Of course, just mentioned a few moments ago that the Mustangs are the defending 5A state champions. Of course, we're going to have 2 different 5A state champions this year in Division I and in Division II, much like football. This is the new playoff format that just began this year, so it started all the way back with volleyball. And then the other Division II matchup is Azle versus Argyle. So what do you think of your district's chances to maybe get a couple of teams through? What's going to be key to try and get through? It's going to be really tough for Brewer against Grapevine, but what do you think?
I think Coach Aledo does a phenomenal job. He'll have his guys ready. He, I don't think anybody felt like they were going to be a playoff team in our district this year, and lo and behold, look where they're at. And so I think he's got them believing, he's got them playing confident, and they're playing a lot better baseball than I've seen them play in a long time. Azle and Argyle, haven't seen Argyle this year. I know they're not the Argyle of old, but I would assume that one might be a pretty solid series. That one might be a really interesting one. One that intrigues me the most is Colleyville and Grapevine.
Yes, me too.
Not Colleyville and Grapevine, Colleyville and Granbury.
Right.
I think those teams are pretty similar. I think they've got pretty good pitching, but I think they both can swing it well enough to beat each other. And so I think that one may come down to pitching and defense.
Probably going to go to a third game then, too.
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
You know, and the good thing for the Pirates is that for their confidence level, after their series against you all, they bounced back and were able to sweep their series last week. And so that kind of, because when you go into a series like they were leading into with yours, that maybe they might have left it all out on the field, and then they had maybe that fog of war kind of mentality, and they kind of dragged their feet, but they were able to bounce back. And what do you think that tells you about them, the way they bounced back?
I think it shows they're resilient. I think they kind of had one of those Tuesday foggy games that went 8 or 9 innings, I think, with Chisholm Trail, but they were able to pull it out. And so that's, regardless, anytime you win an extra inning game, that's a confidence booster. And so, winning cures all. So they may have, been really down after the series against us, but, that's long in the past now. They got to look forward to Colleyville, and I think they're looking at it going, if we get past Colleyville, we got a shot to make it a ways.
Sure, short-term memories, especially at this point of year, and not only game to game or inning to inning. It's really pitch to pitch. You've got to have it. You've got to put it all behind you pretty quickly and think ahead to the next thing that comes your way.
For sure, I think I tell kids all the time, you can't. You can learn from an at-bat that you just had if you didn't like the way it ended, but you can't live there. Mm-hmm. If you live there, then the ball's going to eat you up the next time it finds you. Yep. And I'm like, you got to learn from it, and then you got to move on past it, and it's over, and leave it in the past where it belongs.
Well, Rhett, we want to thank you for joining us. Again, being a great teammate, it always comes in a lot of different forms, and that's exactly what Coach Berry's expecting of you. Congratulations to you for your contributions. And then real quickly, just to remind everybody that the Bearcats and Birdville get started this coming Thursday, best of a 3-game series. Game 1 is 7:30 Thursday at Aledo. Then Game 2 is 7:30 Friday at Birdville. And then if there is a third game, that'll be noon Saturday at Birdville. These coaches were trying to find a neutral game or neutral site for that Saturday game at noon because Aledo has prom on Saturday night, and they just couldn't figure out. They just couldn't land a place to do that. So they decided to flip, and you're doing really good. I think one thing we can always count on with Aledo coaches is losing coin flips. So congratulations to you.
I didn't lose it. I flipped it. He called it. He just called it right.
Gotcha on that. We wish you nothing but the best of luck this week, and we'll look forward to visiting with you next week. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
All right. Want to remind you, too, that this Aledo podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn, H5 Sports Barn, and Nye Physio. And performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats. With expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training, H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. Family owned and operated for over 30 years. Stick around. The second segment coming up with softball. You're listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. Back after this timeout. Aledo Coaches Show podcast continues here from Bourrées of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks. I'm Kevin Lonnquist, and before we get to the softball portion of this podcast, a couple of Aledo notables to tell you about. We have a new boys basketball coach. That is Drew Baker. He was the first varsity assistant at Mesquite High. He's been a head coach for 12 years and has collected more than 200 wins. He has head coaching stops up in Oklahoma and down in South Texas, mainly at Johnson City. And he will be taking over for Brian Blackburn, who took a head coaching job down at NAIA, the University of Tampa. And we also have a new girls soccer coach. She is Taylor May. She comes from Keller Timber Creek. She was the head coach there for the previous 5 seasons, directed that program to the playoffs twice. And before she took over that program, she was elevated after serving as the #1 assistant for 6 years. So congratulations to both Drew Baker as the new boys basketball coach and the new girls soccer coach, Taylor May. Taylor will be taking over for Brian Johnson, who had a great run running the girls program at Aledo. He just announced his retirement. Now, pleased to be joined by softball head coach Heather Myers. And Freshman sensation Tempe Perry here. I think that's what we'll call you since you were both an outfielder and a starting pitcher for this team. First of all, Coach, congratulations on the sweep. And I think we're going to have to call off the season after allowing a run. What happened? I don't know. I mean,
it was unearned.
It was unearned. All right, but I'm just saying.
Unearned.
I mean, you had this streak going on for about 5 weeks. Just kidding, though, of course. But just an overall assessment of the series against Colleyville Heritage and what you thought of your team's performance.
Something I told them after game 2 was I saw. We always talk about discipline at the plate, but they took it to a new level. So they were laying off pitches that they normally swing at least one time in an at-bat, but saw huge growth in their discipline, and that's what's going to propel us through the rest of the playoffs. I feel like just being disciplined at the plate because our defense is going to play solid.
Mm-hmm. Starting pitching, obviously the key. Taylor McKean set the tone in game 1. What did you like about her?
What's not to like about Taylor?
I know, you have to tell me.
Well, I mean, she executes her pitches very well. Mm-hmm. She did have more walks this series than normal, but again, I feel like there's some jitters no matter how many times you've been here. Mm-hmm. It still can be overwhelming at times, sure. But also other things play in, umpiring and things like that play factor. But
right.
Always impressed with her execution. She's a bulldog. She's going to go try to get the strikeout or get an easy out for the defense. So
yeah, we've learned over time that in this sport, whether it's baseball or softball, that there's 3 different strike zones. There's the batters, there's the pitchers, and then there's the umpires.
That's true.
And then Tempe's performance in the clincher in game 2. This was her line: 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 unearned run. I do want to make sure that I emphasize unearned run. 3 walks, 8 strikeouts. Tempe, I'll just throw it to you about just what was working for you, and of course. You guys got off to a 5-1 lead, and then obviously they broke it open for you later on. But what was working for you in that game, too?
I think the most important thing is that me and Coach Myers talk about it and trust each other. So if I see something in a batter, she sees something in a batter, we're going to talk about it between the inning, or we'll call a timeout and we'll talk about it. And we just trust each other. And I think that's the biggest part about our pitching staff is that we trust our coach and we trust the pitch calling, and that our catchers will get the job done, and that our defense behind us will get the job done. So I feel like it's not an individual pitching like what was working. We work together, and we trust in each other enough to know that we can get the job done.
Very true.
Really, they make the point about freshmen not being freshmen this late in the season. I mean, obviously, when you got going last year, it was all new to you. You're trying to make the varsity. You do make the varsity, but in February to where you are now here, it's going to be May on Thursday. So what's it been like for you in your growth just as a pitcher and just feeling like it's in your element that you belong here and you can do this?
Well, we work together a lot. We talk about everything. And like you said, Taylor McKean is very dominant in the circle. And talking with her every single day in the bullpen, you just learn a lot. You learn a lot from your other teammates, and you learn a lot just by getting feedback from the ball and getting feedback from the catchers. So we work together. You don't even really see freshman to senior or junior or sophomore. You just see each other, and we work together, and we don't put each other in categories based on our age.
Okay. Getting back to game 2 for just a moment, Coach Myers, just again, it was a little bit tight early, 5-1, and then you guys broke it open late. What triggered it?
What triggered the hitting?
Yeah, were you just making them work counts, where you just got balls to hit and just hit them where they ain't, as they like to say, or what do you think kind of caused this thing to kind of spiral to where you all were able to win pretty handily in game 2?
I think it goes back to the discipline. They laid off the junk, and if she didn't want to walk every one of us, she was going to have to throw it down the middle of the plate or somewhere where we could hit it, and they did. So, we preach discipline. I know it's all I pretty much talk about. Being disciplined and being intentional. So they really, I can't say it enough, they took it to a different level. I've never seen that type of discipline. I mean, they've always been good. But just being able to check the rise, it was so much where she stopped throwing the rise. We laid off it so much. And then everything else, we just sat, and we were looking for certain pitches, and we knew what to look for. And seeing her twice helps. We saw her on Wednesday, and then we saw her again on Thursday. So if we have an opportunity like that, it's going to be difficult to get us out.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit more about Tempe here. Again, as I mentioned, or if I didn't mention, she is the younger sister of right fielder Addie Perry, who's your leadoff hitter. And Addie, again, going off to North Texas to play in college next year. Obviously, let's quote her numbers for you right now. So she is 7-1 with an ERA of 1.30. She's pitched 48 innings, struck out 60, and walked 14. Is that the best you can do? And so, but seriously, I want you to talk about the impact she's made on this, because you don't see freshmen that you can feel comfortable putting into a playoff series, but the way she's grown from basically August when school started to where she is now, what's the impact she's made for this team?
Oh, the impact is huge. But I will say this about Tempe. She's not your average freshman. She doesn't come in with a lot of fear. I mean, she knows that she's a good ball player. She goes out there and plays like she's a good ball player, and she executes very well. Like, if you get an opportunity to come watch her play, come watch her play. She's fun to watch. But you wouldn't be able to tell that she was a freshman unless you look on the sheet and say, oh, my goodness, that kid's a freshman? No way. Because she has command of her pitches. At 14, did you just turn 15?
15, yes, ma'am.
She has command of her pitches like she's an 18-year-old about to go into college. So that excites me, knowing that as my goodness, a freshman, what's she going to be like as a senior? Good grief. But she's incredible. She brings a lot of passion. You know, if you watch her, you'll see it on the mound. You see everybody behind her they love to play behind her. They like to get outs for her. She gets super easy outs for her defense. So every defense is going to be thankful for that, I guarantee you. Just from being an infielder myself in the past, like you like easy balls. But anyway, she's fun to watch. She doesn't play like a freshman. She plays like a veteran, and very thankful to have her.
Thank you.
Mom and dad sitting over here too, saying good grief because she just turned 15, about to get a learner's permit here to drive a car. And
She got it today.
did you get it today? Holy moly! All right, so all bets are off here in Eastern Parker County. But anyway,
Stay off the road.
To go back on that point, Coach Myers was talking about Tempe again. When you make varsity, obviously you're not playing like you expect to be here. It's kind of like, to use a phrase, act like you know what you're doing, that sort of thing. But did you feel the pressure or an obligation to meet because you were a freshman making the varsity? Or what was your reaction to all this? And then just how did you deal with this day to day and feeling like you can do this?
Well, I think knowing you can do something always comes from the work you do behind the scenes that no one sees ever. I mean, coming up with a sister who is as talented as my sister, you just know that hard work is what you're supposed to do. And so coming in, I really had no fear because I knew that going in that me and my sister would work together throughout this season and make an impact together and just working together. And like, I always say pressure is a privilege because it really is. You come into the atmosphere that we are in right now in playoffs and you just feed off of it. I mean, you said, what broke through our bats? The energy. We took the win in the first game and we rolled through with our energy in the second game. There was not a moment we were quiet. There was not a moment you saw us sit back on our feet. We literally were all gassed the entire game. And you just don't see that in most teams. Most teams fall back after 1 or 2 runs. And in that third inning, they got their first run and we did not fall back. We kept pushing and we kept pushing runs no matter what.
Okay. I want to ask you and I'll get to your relationship playing with your sister here in a second, but just as you went through this season, was there a game, a week, maybe a play where something really went well for you? Maybe you had a dominant start that really, reinforced that you said, I belong here, I can do this. Anything that you can point back to February, March, or whatever?
I just think about the Fossil Ridge game I think it was 2 months ago. We just, that week, we just did a lot at practice, and we came together that game, and I threw 3 strikeouts in 1 inning, and I came in and I hit a home run, and Coach Myers was like, just help yourself out. She said that before my at-bat, and I remember she said, help yourself out. And then I hit that home run, and it didn't even feel like I hit the home run. It felt like my entire team hit the home run because when I stepped on home plate, and my whole team was behind me, and there was just a moment of this team has me, and I don't have to worry about anything because when I step on that field, it's all 18 of us against the person in the box or that pitcher.
And one of those people behind you, of course, is your older sister, Addie. And what's that been like playing with her? Because this is her last ride. This is your first ride. So there's kind of like that alpha and omega thing going on there. And obviously you've grown up together. I'm assuming this has been everything you hoped it would be playing with her. And so how has that impacted your relationship?
We've played together before, and we've always said that this year was going to be our favorite year because we would get to play together. And I think we just complement each other. We do such different things on the field. And so when we just come together, we can learn from each other because we do such different things. So we can just help each other out on the field. And knowing that she's there, she's my best friend. She'll always be my best friend. And we say that. We talk every day at practice. Everyone's like, the best friendship that y'all have will last forever. And we always said that hopefully we would get to play together in college because this is an experience of a lifetime and we will never forget this. In that growing up together, we've always dreamed of playing at a stage like this together, and we're going to ride this out, and we're going to do big things together.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the relationship that I have. I've mentioned this to you before in the past, Coach Myers, about my two daughters. They're 25 and 24, 15 months apart, and they're as thick as thieves. And so it's just kind of, when you have that relationship, though, and it's impactful. It's not, and it's going to mean something not only now for what you all are doing together, but 30 years from now, when you're married, have kids that are doing your own thing in life, and you'll always have that connection, even if you all are living apart, or even if you're living 2 blocks from each other, or something like that. Keep working on that to make that as solid as you can through the rest of your life.
Yes, sir.
Coach Myers, let's get through this. You get through this series against Colleyville Heritage finally, but of course now we're back to the single game elimination format with Burleson. They're a solid team. They finished second in District 8-5A. They beat the champion Centennial this year in their second meeting there, and of course they handled Pascal in their single game playoff last Thursday, 13-3. What's the scouting report on the Lady Elks?
Scouting report.
Or what do you think of them, or what do you know of them, and what's going to be the challenge against them?
Well, I mean, defensively, again, we need to play a clean 21 outs. Pitchers need to execute, throw the pitch where it's called as much as possible, at least 80% of the time, because I have seen several games at this point, so I have a pretty good idea on how to pitch them. And then offensively, again, we just need to stay disciplined at the plate, because at any point, any pitcher has to throw the ball where we can hit it, and we need to execute in that moment. So.
And just like Coach Barry, I also want to congratulate you on the flip not going your way. That was channeling your inner
It
Tim.
was the coin.
That was the inner Tim Buchanan working throughout all of Aledo athletics, because Tim was notorious for losing every flip in his run as the Aledo's head football coach. But it served him pretty well during a pretty successful run here in football. So I think it's probably going to work for you. But
he did my first flips for me my very first year, and I had won games like the whole way. That makes
He
sense.
still
now.
shows up to practice to this day on his golf cart.
So there
He
it
shows
is.
up.
See, it's all kind of running together there. It's the Buchanan effect on that. But you've been through enough of these one-game playoffs, though, to know the urgency, because it's a 7-inning season, basically, it comes down to. So anything you talked about the discipline at the plate and things of that nature, anything specific, because if you mess up the first game, you get a second chance the second game, not this format.
We talked about today just staying and playing our game. Don't rush. Don't play into whatever they're trying to get us to do. We're not going to, if they want to run, we're going to stay calm and throw the ball well. Just play our game and not go into anything that's extravagant, things that we haven't done all year. Don't rush ourselves. We're going to play our game. So that's about it. I mean, we have more experience than they do. They're very young. I think out of 9 players that are on the field, they got 2 seniors and 2 juniors, and the rest are freshmen and sophomores. I mean, they're very, very, very young. I'm not saying they're not ball players, because they are, but at the same time, we have more experience in this avenue, or arena, I should say. And I feel like we have the upper hand, even though we have one game and we're visitors. We're going to go score first. I like being visitors anyway, but I don't tell people that typically.
Well, you just did. And so
Go ahead and score first. Now they're going to want to flip for visitor
exactly,
and I'll get home.
that's
So
exactly
either way,
right.
I win.
If they listen to this, but it's interesting, because you've been through enough of these single games over your coaching career, and so, but just the kind of ball that's played at the playoff level versus during the regular season. Can you describe how different it is?
It's just it's more urgent, like that your game is at the end. If you lose, you're done, and that provides a sense of urgency to the girls. Like, it's nerve-wracking, but once the first pitch is thrown, I feel like they settle down, and that's where I think we have the upper hand, because again, they're young, they're not used to this, so they're feeling the same that we're feeling. But we know how to handle the nerves, I feel like. So, I mean, they may be able to handle it too. I'm not going to say anything about this team, but typically freshmen, sophomores are not used to this.
Sure.
So.
And then Tempe, okay, since you are a freshman, but what was that like for you leading up to that opening play against Colleyville Heritage? A lot of butterflies, or what was it like?
Growing up, I played in a pretty high circuit, so I feel like stepping on the field, it's another day, it's another pitch. You got to take it one pitch, one play at a time, and you really don't. Like, for me on the field, the noise is just kind of quiet. You don't really hear much. Whenever you're in the zone, you're in the zone. And I feel like whenever you're just out there and you're with your girls, it's another day. And you're grateful to be out there, and you don't take it for granted. So when you're out there, you just play the best of your abilities, and you know that the 9 girls that are on the field with you, you're doing your best stuff, and that's what you train for. That's what you do.
All
you
right.
train for that.
Well, you better win because we need to have you back next week. So
I got you.
All right.
I got
So
you.
we'll,
I'll be
anyway,
back.
we'll have you back. And
With
anyway,
a good news report.
Exactly. That's what we're looking for on that. Look, again, a single game playoff against Burleson for these Lady Cats. That'll be 6:30 on Thursday at Saginaw Chisholm Trail High School. For that one, a place that you obviously played at the previous week. Does that matter that you're familiar with Chisholm Trail? I mean,
She wanted that.
Oh, did she?
She did. She's played there too this season, and she really liked it. And the reason why she really liked it is because she was scouting us on Wednesday, and she saw us hit the ball off the wall, the 225. So she's thinking they're not going to hit it out, and that's what she wanted. So,
Okay, gotcha.
Which is intelligent on her part, but still got to.
The field's familiar to us.
It
so
is.
we're going to do exactly what we did last week.
All right. We wish you all nothing but the
Thank you.
best of luck. Congratulations on the playoff win last week over Heritage, and then we'll look forward to seeing you all next week, presuming everything goes the way we think it should go against Burleson. Good luck to you both.
Thank you.
To my far left here is freshman sensation Tempe Perry, and to my immediate head left is head coach Heather Myers. Again, thank you all for being with us, and thank you all for being with us here for this podcast. We want to remind you, too, that this Aledo Coaches Show podcast is brought to you by H5 Sports Barn. H5 Sports Barn and Knife Physio and Performance can help unlock your athletic potential and elevate your game like the Aledo Bearcats with expert sports physical therapy, tailored recovery plans, and top-notch sports performance training. H5 Sports Barn, proud supporters of the Aledo Bearcats. And by Hiley Mazda. Head to Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth today. Their new state-of-the-art facility is conveniently located just off of I-30. Exit Las Vegas Trail and experience top-notch service and hassle-free buying. Don't forget to ask about this month's special offers. Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth, family-owned and operated for more than 30 years. Again, next week, these two programs and their head coaches will be right back here to talk about their playoffs and how they went. Fingers crossed again that they get the results that we're all looking for. And they're going to be with us for as long as these seasons last. So that means late May, early June. That's what we're all thinking here. So for my engineer, Brian Torres, and the Hank FM promotion staff, I'm Kevin Lonnquist. Thank you for being with us each week. We'll talk to you all next week from Blue Rays of New Orleans here in Hudson Oaks for the Aledo Coaches Show podcast. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, brought to you by H5 Sports Barn in Aledo and Hiley Mazda of Fort Worth. With the voice of the Bearcats, Kevin Lonnquist. Please like and subscribe to this podcast and tell a friend. You're also welcome to join us every Monday night at 7 for Boo Rays of New Orleans in Hudson Oaks. It's the Aledo Coaches Show podcast, a presentation of Real Country 92.1 Hank FM.